name is Amritha. I run a school by name Stepping Stone Center. I'm the founder and managing director of Stepping Stone Center. We are a school for children with autism and other developmental disabilities. I'm doing it for the past 11 years in Bangalore. Often I do hear young parents and teachers asking about what is autism. They sometimes they think like it's a motor related issues, but some of the challenges that children face during the young age, I would say, like some of my children do not have proper eye contact. They don't look into your eyes when we have a conversation with them. There is also a delayed in speech. Say, for example, when a child is born, there are certain developmental milestones we expect in children between the ages 0 to 6, right? But some of my children do have challenges in speaking. So that's their language communication is quite delayed. Because of this, they also have a lot of behavioral challenges. So when I say behavioral challenges, screaming, hitting, tantrum, and not compliance with the regular schools. So these are some of the challenges which makes it very difficult to make them be part of the mainstream school. So what happens to these kids? They have been excluded from the regular general education. Okay, so we help schools in terms of early identification of children with developmental disabilities and also autism. And the best thing for a parent or for a teacher to do when they identify a child with certain difficulty or disability is to reach out to their professionals. Okay, so a developmental pediatrician or a child psychiatrist would be the right person for them to seek out a formal assessment to understand what needs to be done with the child. So India has three main challenges when it comes to education of disabled in our mainstream school. First is awareness. So as I said, most of the time children are being not being identified in the right age. So as you know, the brain stimulus or the plasticity of the brain is very high when the children are between the ages 0 to 6. That's when the brain function happens to all of us. So whatever you are today, there should be some impact in your life between the ages 0 to 6. Post that it's only maintenance. So all your learning happens in the early years. That's the reason we say like early years are very golden periods, like 6 years of age. All right. So most of time, like the diagnosis get misplaced or not being identified, or parents do not have access to early intervention or early diagnosis. And there are also a lot of social myths in our country. Say, for example, to name a few, you would have heard your mother-in-law say, like, you know what, like your husband spoke like 5 years, your child can speak by 5 years of age, right? Or he's a boy child, he'll speak little late, a girl child will pick up faster. Or you live, or you live in a cosmopolitan city, that's a reason like the language development has not grown. So there's a lot of myths around that in our community, which also helps to, which is also not helping to identify children very early. And sometimes, like most of times, I have also seen parents finding it very hard to accept that, you know what, okay, my child has a challenge and let me seek out to the right professional. So that's point number one. The second challenge that I face is like the dearth need of certified professionals. Since I work in this field for past 11 years, I kind of understand certification, and having the right training is very important when you work with children with special needs, right? So you need to reach out to the right professional. But unfortunately, the ratio of the professional to the number of children in our country is not being met. The third important thing I would say, like we are all in DIDAC today, which is a hub for education. Inclusive education is still a buzzword in our country. There are hardly few schools in a cosmopolitan metropolitan city like Bangalore, which is promotive of inclusive education. All right. So you may wonder, like, why am I screaming here, standing here, talking about inclusive education? The reason is because the prevalence rate of autism is increasing in our country year after year. Today, the prevalence rate is 1 in 68 children. I repeat it again, it's 1 in 68 children, which means you go to a classroom which has 60 kids, you're going to find one or two kids with autism. Okay, that is only autism, but not other developmental disabilities, right? So we are being often invited by a lot of preschools to do screening there in the school campus. I find like 12 to 15 percentage of their children in any school for that matter have certain either behavioral challenges or language challenges or any other emotional trauma that they undergo. Okay, so it's very important that we cater to kids of young age, right? And the best way to go about is to have your school to be inclusive. Okay, of course there are certain modifications we have to do as school educators in making it inclusive in our school, both physically and also classroom wise as well, but it is very very important. Schools cannot, I repeat it again, schools cannot be keep denying admissions like this on base of the child's development. Okay, if you have to do that, like, you can keep doing it. You see all our five fingers, none of it are same, right? Each and every child is very unique in its own way. So as a school, it's very important for us to find the right platform wherein we can include children with special needs as well. And when I talk about special needs, um, it's not just the child with special needs alone gets benefited in an inclusive school, but a child who is typically growing, right? Say, for example, a skill set like empathy. How do you teach a child what is empathy, right? Until unless the child has been grown up in a conducive environment like that, the child will never know, right? And you and me were never in a situation wherein we grew up with children with special needs, right? So it's hardly difficult for us to interact with a child, interact with an adult who is disabled today, right? When we're talking about a country to be inclusive, a country to marching towards inclusion, it should happen right from the school, because that's the first place that the child goes outside his house. Okay. So we recently had our World Mental Health Day on October 10th, right? Let's use this year to break myths and biases which is happening about mental health, and let's create the right platform for our children where they can be included, not just with special needs, but any child for that matter. Okay. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I conclude my speech by saying that, however, the society treats the disabled is a true measure of its civilization. Let's create an inclusive community by having more and more inclusive education schools in our country. Thank you once again.